action to be taken to avert a worsening of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. 4 Palestinians were today killed in Israeli airstrikes targeting areas of the Gaza Strip. The indirect talks between Iran and the United States aimed at jump-starting negotiations over Tehran's fast-advancing nuclear program have started in Oman, with US President Donald Trump threatening to take military action if there is no deal. You're listening to Radio Algeria International. I'm Mariam Berchi. The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, took part in the opening ceremony of the 4th Antalya Diplomatic Forum in Antalya, Turkey. The President of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, presided over the opening ceremony of the event, held under the theme Restoring the Role of Diplomacy in a Fragmented World. The program for the 4th edition of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum includes no fewer than 10 workshops devoted to debating the main international issues and current affairs, with the participation of government officials, representatives of international organizations and influential figures from the academic and media worlds. The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, has held talks on the sidelines of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum in Turkey with the Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs and expatriates of the State of Palestine, Mr. Mohammed Mustafa, with whom he examined the serious developments in Palestine. Mohammed Khatir has the details in this report.
During the meeting, Algeria reaffirmed its constant support for the Palestinian Brothers at all levels and its continued coordination with the Palestinian side regarding the steps to be taken at the United Nations Security Council in the face of the existential risks hanging over the Palestinian cause and threatening the national project inherent in it. The diplomacy chief also met with his counterparts from Sudan, Venezuela, Yemen, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. The meeting with the foreign minister of Sudan was an opportunity to discuss the developments of the situation in the sister country and to stress the importance of Algeria's role in the United Nations Security Council in favor of the security and stability of Sudan and the preservation of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. During the talks between Mr. Attaf and his Venezuelan counterpart, the two officials examined the progress made by both parties as part of the bilateral cooperation, given the particular attention paid by the two presidents of the two countries, and exchanged views on regional and international issues of common interest. With the Foreign Minister of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Mr. Attaf discussed ways of developing bilateral relations in the economic field, notably by setting the conditions for further interaction between economic operators and businessmen from the two countries. Mr. Attaf discussed with the Yemeni Foreign Minister the latest developments in the situation in the sister country and how Algeria could contribute through its seat as non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council to advancing the settlement process of the persistent crisis in the country.
Earlier, the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, also held bilateral talks with the Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of the Republic of Croatia, Mr. Gordon Grlic Radman, and the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Chad, Mr. Abdullah Sabri Fadul. Mohammed Khatir reports.
Mr. Attaf also met the Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, Felipe Lazzarini, the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ICC, Karim Khan, and the Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations and Head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, UNSMIL, Hana Serwa Tete. During the meeting, the officials hailed the state of friendship and cooperation relations existing between the two countries and examined ways of giving them a new impetus, notably in the economic field. The talks with Chad's diplomacy chief were an opportunity to assess and strengthen bilateral cooperation between the two countries. With the Commissioner General of UNRWA, Mr. Attaf discussed the dramatic humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip within the context of the Israeli occupation's policy of restriction, targeting notably UNRWA's activities and humanitarian relief efforts in general. In this respect, the Algerian diplomacy chief discussed with the Prosecutor General of the International Criminal Court, ICC, the steps taken by the International Court to bring those involved in war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip before court. Mr. Attaf also exchanged views with the Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations and Head of UNSMIL on the latest developments in Libya, as well as the prospects for reconciliation to put an end to the division in this brotherly country.
The Minister of the Interior, Local Authorities and Town Planning, Brahim Merred, has discussed bilateral cooperation in several areas with his Italian counterpart, Matteo Piantedosi, and during a meeting extended to include delegations from both countries. A press release of the Interior Ministry indicated that during the meeting held on the sidelines of the quadripartite coordination meeting on illegal migration in Naples, Italy, the two parties reaffirmed the depth and solidity of Algerian-Italian relations inspired by the values of friendship, good neighborliness and mutual respect. On the occasion, both parties emphasized the importance of the established partnership, whose contours were defined by the presidents of the two countries, and reviewed the prospects of bilateral cooperation in several vital and strategic areas, particularly those related to the interior sector. The talks also made it possible to assess the progress made in several joint economic projects, particularly those currently implemented in the 1,000 provinces, including priority sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing and energy, in addition to cooperation in supporting medium-sized enterprises and startups and their impact on boosting the path of development in local communities.
الحركية الديناميكية اللي أحدثها
The dynamic movement that was launched by the President of the Republic with his counterpart Mattarella and with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has yielded fruits, as we have today tangible projects on the ground in the south of the country, notably regarding the rehabilitation of 36 hectares and the creation of transformation industries, as well as in other fields, energy of course, light and medium industries. We should recall that Italy was the only country that stood by our side in critical times.
بجانبنا في الأوقات الحرجة.
That was the Minister of the Interior, Local Authorities and Town Planning, Mr. Brahim Merred. The Secretary of State to the State Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of African Affairs, Mrs. Bakhta Selma Mansouri, has been received in Harare, Zimbabwe by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the International Trade of Zimbabwe, Mr. Aman Muwiwara. The meeting was an opportunity to review the relations of brotherhood and cooperation established between Algeria and Zimbabwe. The two parties held the level of the bilateral relations linking the two countries, stressing their joint determination to strengthen cooperation, notably in the economic, trade and higher education fields. After exchanging views on several regional and international issues of common concerns, the two sides stressed the importance of continuing coordination to promote peace and development in Africa, in line with the shared vision of the leaders of the two countries in favor of just causes and the defense of African interest in international fora. The Amenokal of the Enagar and Tamasno dignitary Ahmad Mustafa has denounced Mali's transitional government's hostile acts and the ensuring irresponsible accusations leveled against Algeria. In a communiqué, he reiterated on his behalf and on behalf of the dignitaries, tribal chiefs, and the National Liberation Army's war veterans his rejections of such acts aimed at diverting the attention from the coup that plunged Mali into a spiral of insecurity, instability, chaos and suffering. He affirmed that all attempts to emanate from the leaders of the failed coup were targeted Algeria's sovereignty and deal a blow to the nation's security and stability. In this connection, the hostile attacks carried out by the coup leaders in Mali was also condemned by the representative of the Tariqa Qadiriya Brotherhood, Ruim Taha El Adnan.
The Tariqa Qadiriya in Algeria and Africa has condemned the statement issued by the military junta in Mali, which it considers a blatant, heinous statement that clearly unveils the violations of the coup regime and all those who back these extremist movements. The Malian people has historic relations that link it with the Algerian people. They are relatives by marriage, and there is a large number of Malians who study in Algeria. Our message for the Malian people is clear. They should pay attention to this kind of schemes which aim to destabilize the region.
That was the representative of the Tariqa Qadiriya Brotherhood, Ruim Taha El Adnan. The National People's Assembly has reaffirmed that the solution of the Sahrawis question lies in compliance with the settlement plan agreed between the Polisario Front and the Kingdom of Morocco in 1991, under which the United Nations mission for the referendum of Western Sahara, MINURSO, was established. The APN said it followed with deep regret to content of the press release from the US Secretary of State strengthening the expansionist thesis of the Moroccan occupation against the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic and in no way consistent with previous US position based on the values of peace, freedom, justice and the right of peoples to self-determination. The French human rights activist Claude Mangin, wife of Sahrawi political prisoner Naama Asfari, has condemned the violent and hostile behavior of some Moroccans living in France towards Sahrawis taking part in the international march for the release of Sahrawi political prisoners in the jails of the Moroccan occupation, which began on March 13th. Mrs. Mangin said that some Moroccans and French-born Moroccans tried to prevent the participants to the demonstration from taking part and talking about the Sahrawi cause and calling for the release of Sahrawi political prisoners. Denouncing the violent behavior, Mrs. Mangin said that it was scandalous that these same Moroccans, victims of repression in their own country by the Marsen, should be able to prevent the Sahrawi community from using the freedom they enjoy in France, describing this as unacceptable. As UNRWA urged for an immediate action to be taken to avert a worsening of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, 4 Palestinians were today killed in Israeli airstrike targeting Gaza and Khan Yunis in the southern part of the enclave. According to the news agency, several other Palestinians were wounded in today's attacks. This brought to over 20 the number of people killed for the past 24 hours in the Israeli attacks on Gaza. In this respect, the head of communication of UNRWA, Juliet Tuma, warned against the depletion of basic commodities and food stocks on account of the restrictions imposed by the Israeli occupying authorities. She said she feared a rise in famine cases, requesting that all obstacles hampering the distribution of food be lifted. This came as the head of the international community of the Red Cross described the situation in the Gaza Strip as hell on earth. And now the indirect talks between Iran and the United States aimed at jump-starting negotiations over Tehran's fast-advancing nuclear program have started in Oman, with US President Donald Trump threatening to take a military action if there is no deal. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was leading Iran's delegation while the talks on the US side, the first during Trump's term in the White House, were led by his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai has reported that each delegation had its separate room and would exchange messages via Oman's foreign minister. The focus of the talks will be de-escalating regional tensions, securing prisoner exchanges, and limited agreements to its sanctions against Iran in exchange for controlling Iran's nuclear program. US envoy Steve Witkoff has met Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg as Donald Trump urged the Russian president to get moving on a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine. The Kremlin said the meeting lasted for more than 4 hours and focused on aspects of a Ukrainian settlement. The talks Witkoff thirds with Putin this year were described by Special Envoy Kirill Dmitriev as productive. Trump has expressed frustration with Putin over the state of talks. On Friday, he wrote on social media, "Russia has to get moving." That's it for today's news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our special program. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
To travel back in time and learn about the most prominent events that marked human history, no need for a time machine. Echoes of Time with our colleague Mariam Bershi is your only address. A program broadcast to you every week on Radio Algeria International.
Hello and welcome on Echoes of Time, where we journey through the great civilization that shaped our world. I'm your host, Mariam Bershi, and today we travel deep into the heart of Mesoamerica to explore one of the most fascinating cultures in history, the Maya civilization. pyramids to an advanced calendar system, the Maya were masters of astronomy, mathematics and architecture. But who were they, and what led to their mysterious decline? Join me as we uncover the secrets of the Maya world. Civilization flourished in present-day Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras and El Salvador. Their cities such as Tikal, Palenque and Chichen Itza stood as a testament of their ingenuity. Unlike the centralized empires of the Aztec or Incas, the Maya had city-states, each ruled by a king known as the Ajau. These city-states often traded, formed alliances, and sometimes waged war against each other. Obsessed with time. Their priests studied the stars and created one of the most precise calendar systems of the ancient world. They had not one, but 3 calendars: the 260 days Cholking for rituals, the 365-day Hab for agriculture, and the long count calendar used to track the historical events over thousands of years. In fact, the famous 2012 Doomsday Prophecy was a misunderstanding of the Maya long count calendar. It wasn't predicting the end of the world, just the end of a cycle, much like moving from December 31st to January 1st. Imagine walking through the grand city of Tikal, one of the most powerful Maya cities. Towering above the jungle are massive stone pyramids, some reaching over 60 meters in height. But these weren't just for show, they were carefully designed to align with celestial events. At Chichen Itza, the temple of Kukulkan, also called El Castillo, is an astronomical wonder. During the equinox, sunlight creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down the pyramid steps, a tribute to the featherhead serpent god Kukulkan. The Maya were among the few civilizations to develop a complete writing system in the Americas. Their script, known as glyph, recorded everything from royal bloodlines to astronomical calculations. They also had an advanced understanding of mathematics, including the concept of zero, something rare in ancient civilizations. Their calculations helped them build precise city layouts and track celestial movements with incredible accuracy. But if the Maya were so advanced, why did their great cities fall into ruin? This question has puzzled historians for decades. Theories include prolonged drought warfare, overpopulation, and environmental decline. By the 9th century, many southern cities like Tikal and Copan were abandoned. However, the Maya people never disappeared. Even today, millions of Maya descendants live in Mexico and Central America, preserving their language and traditions. The Maya civilization may have faded, but their achievements still inspire us. From their sophisticated calendars to their majestic pyramids, they left behind a legacy that continues to captivate historians and travelers alike. This has been Echoes of Time. I'm Mariam Berti. Join me next time as we uncover more hidden stories from history, and may the echoes of the past resonate in the present and guide us into the future.
welcome to this program devoted to the wonderful Sahara Desert of Algeria. If you thought that the Sahara was all about sand and camels, then you'd better think again. While you'll get your fix of unwieldy dromedaries and undulating dunes, this part of the Sahara is also home to an alien landscape of twisted stone forests, stark volcanic mountain ranges, and endless black gravel plains, as well as deep dark canyons. It's the trump card of Algerian tourism, and now that the security situation has stabilized in the country, thousands of visitors are heading back to marvel at its eye-popping natural beauty. Stretching from Ain Salah right down to the Mali and Niger borders in the Ahagar or Hogar National Park, created in 1987 to safeguard the considerable riches of this part of the country. It's one of the largest protected areas in the world, as its heart is the laid-back town of Tamanrasset, resting at the foot of the broadened Hogar Massif. The craggy plateau, that sleepy oasis of Janet, is known as the Tassili-N'Jer, also one of Algeria's protected areas. Its caves and canyons hide an abundance of engravings and paintings illustrating the once blooming plant and animal life of the Sahara. Now we'll talk about Algeria's heartland of the Tuareg, traditionally a nomadic people who have roamed the desert regions of Algeria and its neighboring countries for many centuries. You'll see beautiful women swathed in brightly colored fabrics and refined silver jewelry, and plenty of veiled blue men, as Tuareg men are sometimes called after the traditional color of their robes. Of Hogar, one of the major routes across the Sahara to the West Africa, is gaining popularity once more after many years in the wilderness. From El Golia, it extends south across the Tedmate Plateau, which stretches on like some sunburnt pancakes, the largest thing in sight be a rock the size of a tennis ball. It then passes through in Ain Salah, a town famed for its salty water, past the canyons and mountains of the Tassili Dimidid, or Tassili. Let's recall that Tassili means plateau in the language of the local Tuareg. And it goes through the steep gorges of Araq and then on this region's hub, the capital, Tamanrasset. From Tamanrasset, the road continues for another 400 kilometers to Ain Ghazam, which sits near the border crossing into Niger. Much of the area covered in this section is protected territory and part of the Ahagar National Park. Tamanrasset, or Tam as it is affectionately known, is the jumping off point for exploring the attractions of the Hogar Mountains, the highlight of which is Askrem, which at some 2,800 meters is one of the Hogar's highest peaks. To climb to the peak of nearby Askrem as night falls is to witness one of the Sahara's most beautiful sunsets over a carpet of peaks. South of Tamanrasset is the Tassili of Hogar, a mystical plateau full of a mushroom-shaped rocket and saffron sand. With this, we come to the end of our program devoted to the wonderful Sahara Desert of Algeria. From me, as Agassi, producer Mahmoud Yousfi, thank you for joining us.
مع إذاعة الجزائر الدولية لن تفوتكم لحظة واحدة من الأخبار السياسية والاقتصادية الهامة. إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم. استمعوا إلينا لنقل المعلومات من مصادرها الرسمية وتفسير حي للأحداث في حصص تحليلية مميزة. إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم.